Hey guys, welcome back to a new video, and in this one we're actually looking at the classic holding company structures. There's a few variations, whether it's onshore, midshore, offshore. If it's the first time seeing me, it's Will from HPT Group, and we obviously specialise in corporate structures, whether it's holding companies, trust formations, fintech licensing as well, and also tax residency, relocating people around the world, generally for tax benefits, again, being in those high taxation economies, whether it's Sweden, the UK, Australia, has implications on leaving or is expected to in the upcoming years. And we've seen a massive demand for clients looking to leave these countries, right? And typically when we leave these countries, such as I have gone and done myself, we do set up your holding structures when you exit businesses, either it's for asset protection or taxation or simple just organization. Then holding structures are one of the most powerful tools that you can have, simply speaking. So when we actually look at the simple, first five classic holding structures, we can see either a Luxembourg, an EU-based Luxembourg, or the Netherlands holding company, or an Asian Pacific Singapore, very common, UAE holding in a free zone, Cayman Islands, typical offshore, BVI business company, which is a very simple offshore, and then Delaware C Corp as well, if it's for venture capitalist interest as well. So these are the typical types of structures that we do see. Now, all of the different structures, as you can see on the spreadsheet, have different substance requirements. Now, substance I've gone over in other videos. It's very important to have, especially for banking, regulation. Companies in 2026 are not just a shell company. There is pure substance behind these companies as well, right? But UAE, I'm not too fond of. I'm going to be making a video why I close my UK companies, why I close my UAE formations as well. Many reasons, whether it's compliance, regulatory, just complete bureaucracy times 10, or simply they're just too expensive to actually run and I don't even use them myself. So one of my favorites is actually Singapore and Cayman Islands and BVI out of this list in front of me right here. UAE, yes, can be fantastic for some clients. Again, every client is a case-by-case situation. It might work for you, it might not work for others. It depends on what you're trying to do, where you're located, very important. And essentially just what's going on with your business, what types of business are you involved with, whether it's VC backed, X, Y, or Z, right? But Singapore, firstly speaking, again, Asia Pacific regional holdings, again, 0% tax on the dividends from foreign sourced, right? If certain conditions are met, 0% on the capital gains as well. And again, there is minimal substance requirements. It's actually one of the few jurisdictions in the world where we do see a mandatory one minimum director for economic substance, which is encouraged, and obviously mandatory over in Singapore, right? And again, banking accessibility, you've got DBS over there, you can bank with, HSBC as well, tier one banking, mass regulated environment, and it's a manageable KYC as well. And setup costs are actually pretty minimal. It really depends on what you're looking to set up. These costs are just estimates of the full structure. But really depends. Singapore companies are around $2,000. If you want to live there yourself as well, you can get an employment permit on the back of your company, especially if it's a holding company as well. It is the new home for family offices. Again, I have some personal comments I won't mention on YouTube for Singapore, but pretty much we are pro Singapore at the end of the day, right? That is key right here. Now, moving on to a typical overseas structure, and that is the Cayman Islands, okay? So the Cayman Islands is well known for its holdings, that is for sure. And at the end of the day, there is pretty much minimum requirements to satisfy the local Cayman Islands government in terms of economic substance within a holding structure, right? So that's a really, really key, important note. But maybe if you're living in UAE, you then have to satisfy the UAE regulatory environment, which is called POEM, P-O-E-M, that's position of economic management, which then comes into force with adding directors, as I've made a video recently on it. Not going to go into this video right here, right? But again, it's very low for exempt companies, and there's no taxes across the board. And it is the home of hedge funds. You can see me posting about this on LinkedIn all the time. We've gone to set up mutual funds there for clients. We've set up huge holding structures of over £90 million a year through dividend structures, whether it's from the UK, whether it's from Europe, whether it's from UAE, Ajman, DIFC zones. We've got to set up these structures before over in Cayman Islands. I'm not going to go deep into it in this video. And again, if you did actually want this spreadsheet, just drop me an email at will@hpt.group. And if you did want to apply to become a client or even have a conversation with me, just drop me an email at the same email as well, or you can go down in the link below and hpt.group/apply. You can apply to become a client today, and we can potentially work together. We don't work with all clients. Typically, if you're living in the UK or let's say Ireland or the Netherlands, it's very hard to work with you. If you're happy to leave, that's a different story. But we don't work with all clients around the world. We generally work with you if you're just looking for the corporate structure, or if you're looking to leave your current country, XYZ, see how we can work together and help. Feel free. You know, we're pretty fair, we're pretty effective, and we have a great reputation for doing so, right? But the only risk with Cayman, roughly speaking about it, is the UK and EU blacklist risk, although it's not on it at all. Again, there has been corresponding banking issues, XYZ. There is SEMA compliance risk for Cayman Islands Monetary Authority as well, and it's not suitable for an operating entity. You know, it's got very limited treating access. One of the other favourites, just to touch on in this video, you can see all of them on the thing. You can have the spreadsheet yourself if you want to, as I've just kind of mentioned, is a BVI. If you're simply an entrepreneur that owns 3-4 businesses, such as myself, I use Gibraltar for my holdings. It's not on this list. If you did want more information about Gibraltar, I can obviously have a conversation with you about that. But BVI is very common, right? Especially if you're living in Hong Kong, for example, if you're living in Switzerland, if you're living in UAE, it is very common for a BVI holdings company just to actually own those equity stakes, investment accounts, receive, private banking, investment banking dividends and commissions into that account as well. We've seen a huge demand for BVI companies in the past few years, and again, it's very low economic substance requirements. Whether you need to satisfy your local governments is a different question. That's why we then offer the consultations, if that makes sense. Okay, so you can see it in front of you here, guys. It's pretty simple. If I go into the structure deep dives, you can generally see how each structure will work. Again, I'm happy. I don't want to go over a spreadsheet. I'm not a teacher or anything like that. We work with clients directly, case by case. But this is a really great spreadsheet for you guys to actually receive and download. And you can see here the types of ratings per holdcos. Okay, whether you're, depending on the actual scenario, right? Whether it's IP holdings, bond debt, joint venture wrappers, fund management, real estate investment holdings, crypto Web3 projects, you know, simply IP or a general entrepreneur or a family office, you know, all of these differ, right? So as we can see, Singapore wins a family office space, PE fund, we're looking at Cayman, you know, Web3, we're looking at UAE. Location independent founder with no ties, we're looking at Singapore and UAE in particular, especially if we can get an Emirates ID card that really does satisfy a lot of local governments as well. UK, US entrepreneur exiting to low tax jurisdictions. Again, Singapore is a really, really clear winner. UAE comes into it a little bit, but Singapore is definitely a clear winner. We have gone and seen that historically, and especially recently with the Iranian war. This is how things move, right? So in terms of cost and time frames, you can have a look at this spreadsheet, right? I'll just zoom in. But feel free to ask me for a download, or if not, apply to become a client, and we can have a great conversation about a particular holdings company for you. It really depends on you. It's not a one-fit-all solution, if that makes sense. Every case is different, you know, depending on what your companies are, what your objectives are, what your privacy objectives are, or what banks you'd like to be banking with. Currently, how much is your revenue as well? It all comes into a big package. So I'm not going to ramble on here, guys. That is pretty much a comparison over the holding companies. You can see them right there. Typically speaking, that's what we see. I don't use any of these. I use Gibraltar myself, and I'm probably going to be making a video on my current structure in the upcoming weeks ahead. Maybe I have time to record it today. I'm not too sure. But other than that, I'll love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next video. So cheerio. Bye-bye.